Stella Stevens, the blonde bombshell who once set Hollywood screens ablaze with her dazzling beauty and quick wit, carried a life story far more complex than the glamorous image the world adored. Behind the radiant smile and the roles that made her a symbol of 1960s sensuality, there was a woman waging a constant war against the studios that tried to own her, the men who sought to control her, and the personal demons that followed her until the very end. Her journey began not under the bright lights of Hollywood, but in the quiet town of Yazoo City, Mississippi. Born Estelle Eggleston in 1938, she was raised during a time when dreams seemed like luxuries reserved for other people. Her father worked modest jobs, her mother cared for the home, and young Estelle, timid, shy, and painfully insecure, seemed destined for a simple life. But there was always a spark in her, a longing to escape the ordinary. That spark lit too early. At just 16, she found herself pregnant and married to a young electrician named Noble Herman Stevens. Their son, Andrew, was born soon after. Estelle loved her boy, but the marriage was suffocating. She was a teenager playing the role of wife and mother, forced into adulthood long before her time. Within 3 years, the marriage crumbled. She was left alone with her child, struggling to make ends meet, and yet, deep inside, she knew she was meant for more. It was at Memphis State University that Estelle's life began to shift. She studied drama, poured her heart into theater, and reinvented herself into Stella Stevens, a name that sounded bold, electric, unforgettable. Local plays led to modeling to the eye of talent scouts. And soon she was whisked away into a world that promised both glory and danger. Her big break came in 1959 with a role in Say One for Me. Though the film was forgettable, Stella wasn't. That same year, she was signed by 20th Century Fox and thrown into the unforgiving machinery of the studio system. Hollywood demanded reinvention. And Stella obliged. Blonde hair, sultry poses, and the kind of publicity shots that promised audiences she was both the girl next door and every man's fantasy. In 1960, Stella's career truly ignited. She appeared in Lil Abner, her comedic timing and sharp presence setting her apart from other starlets of the era. But it was a different kind of exposure that cemented her in Hollywood history. Playboy Hugh Hefner himself declared her one of his favorites. And she appeared in the magazine multiple times, even named Playmate of the Month. Those photos, some bold, some playful, catapulted her into the limelight, but they also haunted her. For the rest of her career, no matter how talented she proved herself to be, producers and directors saw the curves before the craft. Yet Stella was no mere pin-up. She clawed her way into real roles, balancing glamour with grit. Her performance in The Nutty Professor alongside Jerry Lewis showcased not just her beauty but her intelligence and warmth. She could play sexy, yes, but she could also play smart, funny, and heartbreakingly real. Soon came roles in Girls, with Elvis Presley, and later The Courtship of Eddie's Father, each step solidifying her place as one of Hollywood's most alluring stars. But fame came at a price. Studio executives tried to control her image, dictating her roles, her publicity, even her personal life. Stella, fiery and independent, refused to be molded. She fought back against contracts, walked away from films she felt demeaned her, and spoke openly about the exploitation she endured in the industry. In an era when actresses were expected to smile and stay silent, Stella dared to say no. Behind the scenes, her love life was just as turbulent. After her early divorce, she never remarried, but her relationships with powerful men often made headlines. Still, her greatest devotion was always to her son, Andrew, who grew up to follow in her footsteps as an actor and director. Together, they forged a bond that endured long after the cameras stopped rolling. The 1970s brought Stella her most iconic role, Linda Rogo in The Poseidon Adventure. As the wisecracking ex-prostitute turned reluctant heroine, she stole every scene, her vulnerability and strength shining through. The film became a box office phenomenon, one of the most successful disaster films of all time. And Stella's performance cemented her as more than a Hollywood beauty. She was a survivor, both on-screen and off, but even then, the offers dwindled. The industry that once begged for her presence began turning to younger faces. Stella shifted gears, moving into directing and producing. Few know that she was one of the earliest women in Hollywood to step behind the camera, directing films and even opening her own production company. It was a bold move in a world dominated by men. And though her projects didn't always achieve mainstream success, she carved out space for herself in a way few actresses dared. By the 1980s and 1990s, Stella had transitioned into television, appearing in shows like Flamingo Road and Santa Barbara. She took pride in steady work, even if the roles weren't always glamorous. What mattered most was resilience, proving that she could adapt, survive, and still shine. Yet, time is relentless. In the 2000s, Stella's health began to decline. Away from the spotlight, she battled the cruel grip of Alzheimer's disease. For over a decade, she lived quietly, cared for by loved ones, while the world that once adored her largely forgot. The glamorous blonde of the 1960s, the star of The Nutty Professor and The Poseidon Adventure, slipped slowly into silence. On February 17, 2023, Stella Stevens passed away at the age of 84. Hollywood paid tribute with kind words. But those who truly knew her remembered more than just the films. They remembered a woman who had fought against the system, raised her son with fierce love, and refused to be boxed into the role of just another starlet. Before her decline, Stella once said she wanted to be remembered not for the poses in magazines, but for her work, for the laughter, the drama, the stories she helped bring to life. And in that, she succeeded. From the small-town girl named Estelle to the unforgettable Stella Stevens, she lived her life unapologetically, blazing a trail for women who came after her. Today, her legacy endures, not just in the glossy photos or the glamorous roles, but in the quiet courage of a woman who never stopped fighting to define herself on her own terms. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to uncover more untold tales of Hollywood legends, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more.